All right, we are live, and hopefully we have some folks out there joining us. And yeah, we've got some people loading in here. During this time, as you're loading in, I've asked Bob Shank, a friend and a member of the Amerson Music Ministries Board, to help out, and he will help field some questions as they come in. Let's see, we're up to like 22 people now, Frank. So my people are pretty on time.
I told you I wasn't a draw.
No, that's not the case at all.
You didn't believe me.
No, you're right. I don't believe you. We're going to get started here. And for those of you joining in, Bob Shank, as I mentioned, who's a businessman, a strategic thinker, a leader of leaders. He works with businessmen all around the country, involved in lots of activities. And then also my special guest is Frank Luntz. I think the most meaningful thing I can say to Frank is, or about Frank, is he lets me call him, he lets me call myself his friend. And
but he's not going to read my bio. You cannot read
no,
my bio.
I'm not going to read your bio because I know most of it's not true. No, Frank and I met, I think, through Gary Sinise, who is, once again, just a gem of a guy. Love him so deeply and appreciate him. I know Frank Luntz, his bio's there, but I know him as a patriot. He may not like this. I know him as a sweetheart and a very gentle soul, but he's also really brilliant. So Frank, thanks for this time today. I'm going to jump into it. Frank, I remember one time seeing you in the basement of the Senate, or of the Russell Senate office building. We were down where the subway goes to the Capitol, and you had a group of students with you. You were headed to the Capitol. I'd like you to tell people about your work with international students. Why did you start this, and what are you trying to accomplish?
Well, it's become the joy of my life, and it may surprise those of you who see me on Fox, but that is not the joy. Doing the TV interviews, doing the focus groups is interesting for me, although because of COVID-19, that industry may be gone for good. But my joy is not just teaching, it's educating. And I got the chance to connect with the students at NYU Abu Dhabi. And they are from 90-something different countries. There are about 1,200 students there. And every year I teach one class in Abu Dhabi, which is a beautiful, beautiful area, the United Arab Emirates, UAE. And then I do a class in America where I get a chance to show them and help them discover the country. So they go to New York, they go to San Francisco, they go to LA, and they go to Washington. And I've taken them to the White House, I've taken them to the State Department, they've met with senators, congressmen. It's really a who's who. This last January, I'm really proud, I got to take them to Iowa and New Hampshire, and they met with every Democratic candidate. They got a briefing from the White House Chief of Staff. They got a briefing from Kellyanne Conway. They got to take pictures in the White House press room, stuff that most Americans don't get to do. They got a chance to do. They got a chance to ask Bernie Sanders questions, Joe Biden, Elizabeth Warren. It was wonderful. And these kids are special because they're not as jaded as a lot of American college students. Because they're international, they've learned not just to be tolerant enough, to be respectful of other people's cultures and be curious. And they're very smart. And I teach them to challenge me, and all I ask for is the right to challenge them. Now, Steve, you don't know I'm going to do this because he knows my background. But the interesting thing about this January is that I had a stroke right in the middle of a class. And they were behind the mirror in New Hampshire. The LA Times was filming it as it happened. and my arm went numb. And the kids got very nervous because they knew something was wrong. And I didn't do anything about it till I got to the hotel. And remember that these classes I teach are on the road. They're 18-day courses, full credit. And they had just gotten done from meeting Elizabeth Warren. So the women in the class were so excited. We were doing a focus group when this happened, and I got numb. So I knew I needed to go to the hospital. The next day, they told me, you're stuck in here, you can't go out. And I insisted on teaching my students. There was no way I was gonna miss it. And they would not let the students in. So I left the hospital. I checked myself out against doctor's orders. The nurses walked out with me. The doctors came out with me. The security person threw me off the parking lot. My students were outside in Uber cars. They even called the cops. And I've never acknowledged this. And so you're hearing a story that no one's heard before and no one will hear after this, because I was an idiot. And I'm screaming at the security guard because he would not let my students into the hospital. I said, use the waiting room. I don't care where we do it. I just want to talk to them about Obamacare. I wanted to give them a lesson. And I had the doctors and nurses right there. And the security guard says, you cannot stay on premises. And the doctor's yelling at him. The nurses are yelling at him. The cops are now there with the lights and the sirens. The kids are crying. I'm yelling that I'll leave. And I said to them, because we were in Manchester, New Hampshire, and I do not have a coat on. And I have the hospital gown because I checked myself out against hospital orders. I mean, it was chaos. If you saw it in a movie, you'd say this is not believable. It really did happen. And so the next day, the head of nursing said, we cannot have this. The doctor, who was Jordanian, said, I cannot have you die off the grounds. We're moving you to the ICU. You'll do it in the waiting room of the ICU. They gave me permission on the spot. The students got sent home because they're now hysterical. And on day 2 of my hospitalization, hooked up to the IV, hooked up to the drip because my blood pressure was a mess. I taught for the first and last time at the Catholic Hospital of Manchester, New Hampshire, for about an hour and 20 minutes. I agreed I'd only do it for 45, but I went on. The doctors came and gave a lecture. The nurses came and gave a lecture. I had patients sitting around with the students. I had family members. And for the first and only time ever, the ICU, the waiting room, was turned into a classroom. And I am not proud of what I did because I was insane. But I am proud that I gave my students, I let them know that somebody really cared about them and somebody was prepared to do whatever it took to educate them. And that's why I do it. 15 students from 15 different countries. And for one afternoon, they got a lecture on Obamacare, not from an ideologue, not from an academic, but from the doctors and nurses that have to live it. And that was my dream, and that's why I did it. So there you go. It's a little bit longer than you expected.
Amazing.
Great story. Frank, I wonder, you're a man whose professional life has been about messaging. You're a wordsmith. You understand the nature of cognitive and emotive messaging coming together. You know how to sell ideas based on the way that they're packaged in words. We've watched in our generation the political rhetoric turn brittle and harsh. It just doesn't seem like there's any civil discourse anymore. Do you think that can and will change? What can we do?
I think it's going to get worse before it gets better. And it's a simple question I ask people. Steve, I assume that the people, and Bob, I assume the people on this call are basically right of center. They don't have to be, but my guess is that a lot of them are. And I say this to you because we have, and I share your point of view, but there's a reason why I put this picture behind me. That George Washington up there set a tone for the country, and we are very lucky that he did. A tone that attempted to diminish, sorry about that, the differences in a country that was so young and so imaginative that he was making the rules as he went along. And he was not a humble guy, but he was a decent guy and an open-minded guy, and someone who created a trend for everyone to follow after him. Everything from not serving a third term to not being called king to walking amongst the people and not being carried. And then the other guy to my left, who saw it as a responsibility to bring reconciliation, not just reconstruction. And we need that today. Just think of what's happened in the last 24 hours and how our country is torn apart. And think of the language that we use from the highest levels of our office. And I know this is something that you two believe, and I believe that's something that those on this call believe. If we would not accept it from our children, and we wouldn't, if we would not accept this kind of language from our teachers, our coaches, the people that we work with, we should not accept this from anyone in public society. Steve, I'm not a devotee of opera, but I love and I cherish when you sing the Star Spangled Banner and when you bring it into my life, because I can close my eyes and it takes me to a better place. And I'm trying so hard to be a better person. Bob, that is such a great question, because we should not tolerate, no matter what anyone says to us. My mother would always say to me as a kid, if other people are jumping off a bridge, that's no reason for you to do it. And I would say, Mom, this is not helpful. This is not right. And people are antagonizing me. And it's not a matter of, if people aren't pleasant or you don't have a pleasant thing to say, then don't say it. I think we should be setting a higher standard. I don't care what MSNBC says. I don't care what CNN says. I don't care what Fox says. If we are blessed, and we all are, to live in, I can see the bookcase you have, and see, Steve, I see the bookcase you have. And I'm lucky to have these paintings. I'm blessed. We're all blessed. That requires us to carry ourselves in a better fashion and to be unforgiving, not unforgiving, to be questioning those who speak in ugliness, because that's the opposite of what Steve does. You bring joy and peace of mind and decency to every performance. I want to do that to my students, and I want everyone on this call to hold ourselves to a standard that does not accept the ugliness that we see around us today. And I think it's fair. I want to move my cursor, but I'm so afraid of disconnecting this call. So I'm going to let you do it. I know there's people in the chat room. I know that there's people in Q&A. Let's do one more question and let's start to open it up to them.
Okay.
Thank you.
Frank, are there things happening? Are there things happening in the world right now during this pandemic that we don't see? Things that are happening that are good, or things that are bad, but we're not cognizant of what's transpiring?
Yes. The UK is even worse off than we are. And I went to school with Boris Johnson. I've known him for over 30 years. And I know how smart he is. I know how clever he is. And I saw him as having the ability to pull the country together. But he did not. He sat for too long. He waited for too long. He believed in the idea of this kind of infect everyone universally on a low level so we could withstand it on a greater level. And it was not the right strategy. And the UK is even behind us. That's number one. I know that China's not told us the truth. And I see among some people the desire that every time Trump mentions China to say that he's trying to divert attention. He may or may not be. That may be something that's real. And by the way, I seek the truth in all of this, no matter where the truth takes me. But I will tell you that China has not been truthful to us. And I was very fortunate because of these international students, and many of them come. I had a half a dozen Chinese students alerting me to take it a lot more seriously than we were, and telling me to stay inside before we had a lockdown, even before New York acted. And the students sent me information in a WhatsApp, because they would not email me and they would not text me because they were afraid. And I did not know who they were related to. And these kids come from really powerful families. And I saved the emails, and they will not acknowledge it on the Zoom calls I do. By the way, I'm sorry. I've been raised to answer questions fully, so I don't give a yes or no. And I realize I go on forever, but we'll open it up. They've not told us the truth. It was much worse in Wuhan than they acknowledge. They still cannot explain why they closed all their domestic flights, but they still allowed international flights. They have not come clean on that. That doctors and medical experts were made to disappear, and they still have not reappeared. They're dead. And we really do need to know, because if we're going to avoid a recontamination of this country, because we are opening up, and we should open up, which we should open up safely and sensibly. And that does not mean opening up the beaches and just saying, go shop and go do everything. It means a careful process, because this virus is really bad. It is not as deadly because we're doing more testing now, but it does not really go away. And we should not politicize it. We should not ridicule those people who bring science to the conversation. We have some decent politicians in America who've handled this very well. We've had some who've handled it horribly. And I want to admit a mistake, because this is part of the change in me. I thought Andrew Cuomo had done an excellent job because of his briefings, which were organized and factual, and he explained every chart, and he put the doctors beside him, and he did not make wild claims. But let's be honest here. New York has not been a success story. And it started in New York and spread elsewhere. And he actually should have acted earlier, and he knew about this earlier. And the mayor of New York, de Blasio, was encouraging people to go out after we knew we had a problem. And so I mistaken communication and presentation for competency. And I got it wrong. And I'm here to say, everybody who's on this call, it is a lot more freeing if you can acknowledge people will hold it against you. But those who know you will trust you, and you will have more influence, and you will have people paying more attention to you if you're willing to acknowledge when you got it wrong. Andrew Cuomo would not be a good replacement for Joe Biden because he got it wrong. He has not acknowledged his mistakes. And we can never allow a smooth talker to replace someone who knows, someone who's wise, and someone who has the knowledge to learn from what went wrong. So yes, China's not told us the truth. We have not done the best job we could have nationally. We have failed in New York, and it's going to be a while before they open up. I'm waiting to see what they do with the schools. And the UK is much worse than we realize. So again, I'm sorry, because we're already 20 minutes into this call, and I take too long, and I apologize.
Frank, we're looking for thoughtful insight, and you're giving it to us. We celebrate the fact that America's built on the platform, the foundation of the Judeo-Christian values. You represent the Jewish community. A lot of the people on the call represent the Christian community. Steve Weinberg is another face that we see on Fox. Steve represents everybody, I think, but he's on the call. He's posed the question, what's it like being a Jew in the Arab world? And do you see any chance of reconciliation?
I'm going to surprise you, which is I have a better reception in the Christian community than I do in the Jewish community because I am right of center. And I may have moderated over the last few years, but I still believe in the things that you believe in. And I encourage people to go to church. Last night, one of the best interviews is by a gentleman, a football player, and I am a Watson, Benjamin Watson. And he is born again. And he is African-American and trying desperately to bring understanding to the violence that we now see in Michigan. And he represents the Judeo-Christian ethics. And because I've been active in football, we've been going back and forth. And I really think that because we took God out of the classroom, because we took God out of the government buildings, and we barely have it in the House and Senate right now, other than a prayer in the morning, I don't think we act in a way that he would be proud of. I don't think we act in a way that we should be teaching our children. I know that if you believe in God and you pray once a day and you go to church or synagogue once a week, you are more likely to be happy. I have not talked about this in 5 months. I've not talked about this since I got sick. You are more likely to be happy, healthy. You're more likely to have a good relationship with your children. You're more likely to be satisfied at work. Everything about your life is better. And if you are atheist or agnostic, you're more likely to lie. You're more likely to cheat. You're more likely to be angry. That there is a direct correlation between faith and freedom and satisfaction. Not happiness necessarily, but satisfaction. A sense that you are doing good in this world. I still have a difficult time with Palestinian students from Jordan. And the reason why, and again, I'm telling you a story I don't tell anyone else. Good for you. It's not like you had to beat this out of me. This has been at the surface and I have not shared. I have a great relationship with the Palestinians who live in Palestine because I believe that we have to address that issue. I'm for a Jewish state in Israel. I'm for a Palestinian state in Palestine. I am for protecting all of the religious sites of Christianity. It is essential to the Christian faith, the steps of the cross and Bethlehem. And I know that Christians want Israel to protect those sites because Jerusalem has been open to every faith since 1967, has been open to every belief. I got to go to the Church of the Sepulchre. I went really early in the morning, and my congressional friends who are of a deeply Christian faith were so grateful. And we did something we were not supposed to do. And I won't tell you which congressman, but there was a do not walk, do not enter, do not go. And this congressman and his wife, and we were talking about faith during this, we were really well protected because you can imagine what it is to be in a place. If you could take down 15 members of Congress, you were a terrorist, you'd want to do it. And he and I had started to fade back because we were in a wonderful conversation. This man is still in Congress now. And it said, do not go. And we both climbed through, pushed the walls away, and we went into a place that nobody is allowed to go. In that church, we went down as far as we could go. So this is where I think this is where Jesus is buried. And we were closer than any other human being was ever allowed to go. I mean, we were in the dark and we were using our phones to light us. But that's what I want to do. These Arab students wanted to explore with me. And I'll tell you the class, again, I apologize. But my goal is to teach a class that spends 6 days in Israel, 6 days in Palestine, and 6 days in Jordan. And the Israelis have approved The Jordanians have approved. The Palestinians have tentatively approved, and co-teach it with a Palestinian professor, because that is how we're going to open up our hearts. These are not lines to me. And when you get really sick, you learn that it's not just your brain that matters, even though that's what got hurt. It's my heart. And really, Steve, that's the phone ring? That's the best you can do? I know you go to church every day. Here's what I want you to do, or somebody on this call. I know we got 29 participants. Steve, I want you to change your ring to play that funky music, White Boy, and let that go off in church.
Okay. Frank, there are many Americans that feel that China or the Chinese Communist Party needs to pay or needs to feel some repercussions for how they've handled the virus. What are the landmines that the United States faces? How do we negotiate these next few weeks and months?
Okay, I almost lost you. Yes. Okay. I was looking at the questions and now I got to get rid of them. And right. Someone's very funny. If you're America's tenor, who's America's bass?
Yeah, we're going to ignore that. That's Steve Weinberg. He always wants to sing with me.
That is so, I love that. That is so funny. But yes, but it's not, China owes the world an explanation. And the first thing that it has to do, and we should be holding them accountable and responsible, not from a sense of revenge, but you got to let us in completely. And you cannot be taken, you caused us to have this happen. And I don't know if your people will agree with this or disagree, but you caused this to happen. You owe the world not just an apology, but cooperation and equipment. Because if you had been honest with the world, if you had not imprisoned or made your doctors disappear, if you had actually responded when we heard about this, because we knew, America knew that something was happening in January. And China knew about this in December. If they had told the world we have a problem, the WHO come in, the NIH come in, the CDC come in, Oxford and Cambridge come in, let's set up a task force and let's figure this out now. If China had done that, we may not have stopped the spread because this thing is powerful, but it did not need to be this way. We're being told, and I think it's political science, which I don't like, that if Trump had acted earlier, 1 week earlier, we would have saved 36,000 lives. So if we had acted 1 month earlier because of China, how many lives would that have been saved? And the very people who say this, Mr. President, you didn't act soon enough. Why are they not screaming at China? Because China tried to hide this, not for days, not even for weeks, but for months they were not honest about their data, and we still don't think they're being honest about it now. If you think Trump waited too long by a week, why are you not livid for the loss of life and loss of commerce and loss of freedom? This is no big deal for China because they don't prioritize either life or freedom. Just look at how they treat their religious minorities. But this is destroyed. This has been devastating to Italy, devastating to Spain, devastating to the UK, and we're seeing now Brazil. We're seeing country after country. This is dominoes. Every country has fallen. Every country has been hurt. Why are we not saying to China, look at the damage you've done. You owe us. You owe us financially. You owe us ethically, morally. Why are we paying so much money? Why is France allowing itself to be held hostage? So it's letting the Chinese phone company into their technology when we know what this will mean. And then they're paying so much for these masks that they should be supplying to the world for nothing.
Frank, in the questions that have been swirling, Joe Biden's name has come up. I'll give you an option. You could pick the question set that you'd prefer to go with. One of our participants is asking, do you think he'll actually be the Democratic nominee who will go into the general election? If not, who do you think you would handicap as the likely alternative? And do you have any insight about what the VP selection might be? Now, your alternative to the political question would be more of a consultant's question, and that is that a week ago, Biden misstepped in a radio interview, and he was caught by a number of folks who opposed the direction that he had taken, and he circled back and apologized. That's an unusual thing these days. As an advisor to the political arena, would you say that that's a show of strength or a show of weakness? And should we be seeing more of that happen when folks find themselves crossways?
So I'm going to answer you precisely and get crossways with a few of the people here. It was a mistake politically. It was correct morally and ethically. So I'll tell you guys, I know Joe Biden. I know him personally. I've stayed at his home. I taught his son, Bo, the young man who died of a brain tumor several years ago. I knew Bo for going back to 1989. So I've known Joe since 1990. And as a human being, he's the person who you would want living next door. As a business partner, he's like me. He cannot answer a question slowly. Let me take that back. He cannot answer a question quickly. He's going to give you, ask him what time. He's not going to build you a clock. He's going to build you Notre Dame. But he is a very decent person, and I'm not surprised he apologized. And he does get angry now, and I've seen those videos. And he does lose his place now, and I've seen those as well. He's not the same man that he was 3 or 4 years ago. He should have run, frankly, in 2016, not in 2020. And for those who are concerned about his health, you actually have to be. I've gone through members of my family. My mother and my grandmother both had dementia. But I never said to them, you try to bring about comfort to people. You don't try to insult them. And I know that Donald Trump, the president, has no off switch. And maybe this is what you do in politics, but this is not what you do in real life. And he is going to be the nominee, even though he continues to show signs that he shouldn't be. There's no mechanism within the Democratic Party to pull him away. He would have to do it himself. And no governor and no senator is going to say that he should step aside. Nobody. So the question then becomes, what kind of person do you have on stage the 3rd or 4th week of September when they have that first debate? And Donald Trump is going to light him up. And it's going to make Trump people really happy. They're going to feel really good because they've wanted to do this. And it's going to make Democrats very angry and resentful. It's going to light up Fox and CNN and MSNBC. It's going to light up the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal. And it's going to be a very sad, awful excuse for what American politics has become. And your kids are going to be watching it. And your kids are going to take that behavior back into the classroom. And they're going to make jokes about it. And the idea that we make fun of someone who is, through no fault of their own, going through a health issue, and that we make fun of someone who is president of the United States and we use that kind of language, there is nothing good that can be said about it, which is why we need your concerts, which is why we need your performances, which is why you're going to have to get back out there, because you're going to have to give us something to get our minds off of what will be, I believe, the worst debates, even worse than 2016. And we're going to be cheering our side, but it's going to be bad for the country.
Frank, we want to honor your time.
No, I had said to people that I wanted to keep it short because I never know how I'm going to feel. We can go on a little bit more.
Okay. Let me,
He wasn't expecting this. This is the moment that you hope for on television, that you ask a question that they don't have an answer to, or you get this dead air. You just saw a performer offer dead air, and it never ever happens. So
Frank, I'm on his board. I've got to protect him. So here's the question from one of our participants. You've got a fascinating crossover into the educational environment, and you're investing yourself in the next generation. But what concerns do you have regarding the left that is, we're perceiving that they have a control over education, most especially at the advanced levels? And how do you feel about that? And do you see any turn possible?
the left is in control. There is no desire. Okay, this is a really cool moment for me. I've been teaching at NYU Abu Dhabi for 2 years, and the other professors saw that I was really dedicated to the students, and I was trying to do really cool stuff. So they invited me to sit in on a faculty meeting, and they'd never done it before. And by the way, they've never done it since. And it was a private meeting. It was in someone's apartment, but at NYU Abu Dhabi, we all live on campus. So I come in, there are about 15 people there. There are 2 people who are there who don't want me there and actually say, "What's he doing here?" In a sneer that I couldn't do it because I'm smiling, but it was really mean and really ugly. And I said immediately, "I don't have to be here, I'm sorry." And they said, "You're a language guy. We think you're open-minded, i.e. we think that you'll be on our side. And we don't like some of the stuff that you've said, but this is a faculty meeting." So the 2 people that are sneering go like this, and they fold their arms. And I see it immediately. And I know what that means. And I bet there are a couple people on this call who got your arms like this right now. But so I study this, but they're told to keep quiet. So they're talking about diversity, but their definition of diversity at the university is women. Women now make up about 1/3 of the NYU faculty. And they want to put forward a resolution that women, since they're 52% of the population, should be 52% of the faculty. And there's part of me that just wants to keep quiet because I'm in the enemy nest. I am there as they're debating, and I'm listening to their strategies, listening to their tactics. And this is so cool, and I'm so excited. But if you know me, you know that there's only so much I can take. And we're in academia, so I let them go on for about 40 minutes, and that's as far as I could go. And I said, "Can I ask a couple questions?" "Yeah, sure." First one, what is the difference between when a man teaches about politics or economics or history? What's the difference between a man and a woman? And they all agreed, and they all affirmed that there's no difference, that they should be teaching the same thing in the same way, and that's why we need equality. And they all looked really happy because that was the proof to them, and that was the argument they're going to use, that there should be no difference between a man and a woman, and therefore there should be an equal number of men and women. And so I said, what's the difference between a liberal teaching politics and a conservative? What's the difference between a liberal teaching history and a conservative? A liberal teaching economics and a conservative? Well, there's a huge difference there, but that's not what we're here about. I said, wait a minute. You're trying to argue diversity from a gender standpoint where you just acknowledge it does matter. It doesn't matter. I am arguing that diversity of opinion, that diversity of thought absolutely matters on a college campus. And I'll prove it to you. how many of you in this room, you can see how many are men and women, how many of you in this room voted for Donald Trump? And not a single hand went up. And my final question to you all is, don't you think you should have at least one Trump voter on your faculty? Just one? And the people who had said to me, I think this conversation is over. I think we've lost the focus. We appreciate your point of view, and we thank you for coming. That was it. And I could hear them talking as I left. But you have every right. Whoever asked that question, you shouldn't just be afraid. You should. It's beyond fear. The academy has been taken over by the left, and they don't even want a single right voice. So at the same time that I ask you to be decent to each other, and I ask our leaders to treat each other with respect, I also ask for an open-mindedness and a not just tolerance, but mutual respect. And my students in my class, my Egyptian students, I will tell you bluntly, probably like me more than any other students in class. And there's a male and female, and they both got permission. One of them's father is a general in the Egyptian army. And I insisted that they get permission. They're going to give me a tour of Egypt. Someone who has worked for Israel, someone who is publicly Jewish, they want to take me around their country. They want to show me off. That there are ways to overcome this, but you have to want to do it. And that's the problem, is in academia, they don't want to do it.
Okay, 2 questions, one short answer and then maybe a longer answer. Someone asked, Jody asked, you didn't answer, who's the VP for Biden going to be?
Okay, I think the person that I would choose if I were him, and I dislike her intensely, and I'm actually trying to work against her, but it's Governor Whitmer of Michigan. She is a nanny state governor. She's a liberal. Whoever is the vice president is going to be a president someday. I'm sorry for saying that, but I believe it to be true. And she is uncompromising on the left. But she brings Michigan, and she knows how to talk to blue-collar white guys who shifted and voted for Trump over Biden. I think she's much better than Kamala Harris. I think she's a better candidate than Amy Klobuchar or Tammy Baldwin. And I just don't think the Stacey Abrams in Georgia, if she's picked, she will be torn apart for being unqualified and not capable of being president.
Okay. Bob, you can help me answer this question or ask this question or pose it. But Frank, last week I heard you talk about lighting a candle and how important the word reconciliation is to you. Bob, I don't know if you want to jump in there, but I'm curious what that means to you, Frank.
Sure. It means that I need to steady my own head. And this is now, I can't say it's a daily struggle, but it's more than once a week. And it happens when I watch the news. And I see, the people who are angry bother me because they mess it up for everybody else. I watched the protests last night for 15 or 20 minutes. And the ones that are covering their face because they want to throw bottles and they want to attack the police, those aren't the people that my heart goes out to. It goes out to those who wonder what has happened to this country. It goes out to those who open themselves for me on a Saturday and for you on a Sunday, and they really feel what they read, that they read the Bible to be better in life. I had an issue with the governor of Alabama, and you guys will remember him, not because he wanted to put a 10 Commandments in the Capitol building, because I agree with those who say, what exactly do you disagree with? What is wrong about any one of those? I know that Bill Clinton would have liked 5 commandments rather than 10. But I was upset that the governor politicized it. I believe that we have to protect religion from government, not protect government from religion. I think it's the other way around. And I try to put my mind at rest, because if I don't, I'm asleep by 7:30 at night, and that makes me really dull. And before I got sick, I slept 3 hours a day. Now I sleep 12 hours a day, and there's something wrong with me if I'm sleeping 14 hours a day. That means that I'm not experiencing the world. So a couple of times a week, I do this to try to readjust my head so that I'm better at calls like this. I try to be better at calls like this. And I can be more helpful for people. I can do more with my students. And reconciliation is what we need. I just wrote today, could you imagine a life would have been different if Abraham Lincoln had not been assassinated? I did not know until I did my history that Andrew Johnson was a really bad guy. And I thought he was trying to continue Lincoln's policies. He was not. He was a Democrat, a bad Democrat, a Southern Democrat, a racially divisive Democrat. And he was not who I thought he was. I figured that he believed in this. He was actually going back and trying to undo policies that were trying to heal our country. And that's why they came after him. He wasn't furthering Lincoln, he was getting in the way. And reconciliation is about accepting people for who they are, accepting that none of us are flawed. I have to learn to forgive myself, which is very hard for me because I was not as good a person as I wish I was. And I have to learn at not only forgiving people, but embracing them. I realize that this has got incredible and it's very strong faith overtones. And I want you guys to know, I rarely go to show that there was a period, and I said to you that you were more embracing to me, that there were a number of years over the last few years when I went to more churches and spent more time at your services than mine. But I find I learn a lot, and I find them at peace. And I want to encourage that. And that's how I feel, Steve, when you sing, because I will go from this and I will not put on opera. I'll put on the Beatles. And still, when I sit outside and when I listen to you, when you performed at my house, when I've heard you at the events that we've done at the Reagan Library, when you do all the events for Gary Sinise and you put your heart into it. I never liked the Star Spangled Banner until you sang it, because I never really appreciated it. I know it's a British drinking song, and that always bothered me. I wanted us to create something, and I always liked America the Beautiful. And I will ask you the next time we get to do something at my home for you to do that as well, because that's my anthem. But geez, you are the definition. It doesn't matter whether you're young or old. It doesn't matter whether you're from California or New York. It doesn't matter what politics you are. Your voice is a voice of unity. Your voice is a voice of love and of heart. And we need more of that in this world. Okay, I got emotional, so you got 2 more to go. That's my early warning sign that I need to stop.
Frank, there's a distinction among the people on this call that, for the most part, faith doesn't inform them, it defines them. And I wonder, you live your life a lot behind the curtain where they make the sausage. And if anybody would know enough to be in despair, you would. How do you find hope in all of this? Where does it come from for you?
Good. You hit it. You hit it. You hit my heart right there. I find it from my friends. Kevin McCarthy, who you should try to do on this. Kevin is someone of faith. So Kevin, he's one of my best friends in life. And he's actually the person more involved with me. When I had my stroke, Kevin called every single day for about 5 weeks until someone who's Mike Milken got in my head and stopped me from behaving badly. I would not be here if it was not for Kevin, because he would not let me go. And I began to do the same stupid things I was doing before. For any of you who've been sick, you know that you have to behave differently. I didn't. I went back to desserts. I went back to spaghetti bolognese. I went back to all the bad habits. And Kevin would not let me go. And there was a period when I didn't get to take my medication. I did not sleep. All the things I do right now. And I didn't know how devout Kevin was. So he would invite me up to Bakersfield. And in the car ride, he would say, give me 5 minutes. And he would read the Bible. He had a portion that he read. No one knows this because he doesn't wear it on his sleeve. His wife would send me Bible verses. And you won't know this from me, but Tim Scott, the senator from South Carolina, before I got sick, but when I was heading really in a bad situation, Tim would send me his Bible thoughts. And Kevin and Tim would meet and discuss this. And I have betrayed a confidence, but I do it. I don't know why I do it. I probably did something wrong. I'm probably going to ask for forgiveness. But these are people, Tim is much more vocal about it. Kevin is not. But Kevin and Judy McCarthy put it into me, and it's in them. And there's another one who is this way, and he is more public about it, but he was very helpful to me. And it's Mike Pence, our vice president. And Mike had heard a couple times when I was really struggling and intervened and did so in a way that connected to me. You asked me what gives me faith or hope. I don't have it that much. I am much more pessimistic than those of you on this call because I do the sausage. I do see the sausage. I go through this right now. I see the sausage being made. And it's not great. And I surround myself around wonderful people. And I've got so many friends. And I realize how many friends, and this is a good exercise for you all to do. I was tired of them asking me how I was. It's just like, stop already. You're not being helpful. I'm getting better. I'm on the right track. I'm doing everything I'm supposed to do. I got my pills lined up over there. I'm like an old Miami Jew right now. I've got a pill box. Oy vey. I could do all the Yiddish expressions. And I'm doing the right stuff. And I've cut down on TV, and I'm doing my teaching with my students. And I'm looking at trying to teach in the inner city in the fall. So I'm being a good person for the most part. I'm not calling people out, but I do as much as I can. So the email goes to 23 people. And then I realized, and those are 23 people that at least 4 times a week, that was the definition. This is about 8 weeks. So these are people who are emailing, texting, or calling 4 times a week over an 8-week period, 9-week period. So that's a lot of communication. And I wanted them to stop. And then I realized I missed 11 other people. So now I'm up to 34 people. I do a call with my college friends. There are 10 of us. And all of us get on a call every Saturday without fail. So now I'm up to 43 people. And I realize that there are a whole lot of people I've left off this. People in other countries that are engaging with me 2 or 3 times a week, that they didn't quite hit the cutoff. I can't believe I am this blessed to have this many friends when I really did not treat them well, when I put my business associates and associations above my friendships. And now I work for 2 hours a week, and that's 2 hours a day, and that's it. And I'm on the phone 4 hours a week. And I'll do one more call, because if I can make this an hour, then that proves to me that my head is, even if I trip over words, I apologize for that. but my head is still here. I have hope because I'm surrounded by really smart, really talented, really special people. I'm on the phone with an opera singer. Holy cow. You had told me that Rudy Giuliani, which is not as special now as it was before Donald Trump, but I told Rudy, he invited me to an opera and he invited me to a ballet. And I said, I will go with you to a cigar bar, even though I don't smoke. I'll go with you to a wine bar, even though I don't drink. You know, we'll go to pizza parlors. Well, I'll go anywhere with you. And I actually did come up to New York. And he really did used to take me around for the last, since 1996. Rudy and I have been great friends, almost as long as McCarthy. But I said to him, I'm not going to opera unless it's the Barber of Seville. And the reason why is because I know Bugs Bunny and I know all of Bugs Bunny's words. And I went to the Barber of Seville in Russia and I'm singing the American, and the other Americans who were sitting around me who knew the words I was singing, and they start to laugh. And the Russians are telling me to shut up, but I don't like Russians, so I didn't care. And I would not go to ballet. And here I am on the call with a great opera singer. So the longer you live, the stranger life is.
Who knew?
Frank, we're going to let you go. Bob Shank, thank you very much for helping me out here.
Honor.
By the way, if those of you who are on this call, if you would like to do this again with some folks, let me know. As I shared, I've gotten to know some very interesting people like Frank.
Yes,
And,
actually, so allow me to interrupt for 1 second. So I've run into Steve several times in the work that he does in the Capitol. And if there ever was, the truth is, I wish that those who don't see you would see you. And the ones that see you actually need you the least because they already have God in their hearts. You need to do what you're doing because we are as divided as we are as a society. The yelling that you see on television right now is the yelling that happens in Washington. It used to be much more peaceful. It used to be that they would argue on the floor, but they could figure out how to work together behind closed doors. And while some members do that, not enough do. The call that I have for you all, the ask that I have for you all, is to say to Steve that his mission needs to add double the number of members that he administers to, and that his goal should not be those that he talks to. The mission is to extend the word as you see it, is to extend your heart and to extend your hand to people who don't currently receive it, because they are the ones that need to be healed, and they are the ones that need to heal others. You are indispensable. You are, I mean it, I really do. The value that you bring is immeasurable. I know what my limitations are, but you have none. So I ask that you push harder and reach more and never, ever slow down. And I'm
Frank,
sorry for interrupting.
You're not, Steve brings a sincere relationship alongside those folks in the Congress, as you watched. And the greatest thing he does for them is to pray for them and that they know it. Steve, why don't you pray for Frank as we finish this amazing hour together, and do for him what you're doing for our representatives and senators on Capitol Hill.
You have to tell him not to cry, because that just makes me upset.
Frank, I'm gonna reach my hands towards the camera as though I'm reaching to you. And I'm going to ask a lot of my friends around the country to do the very same thing, that they will reach out to you. And I wasn't going to bring it up. You did, but you're still in a process of healing. And so Heavenly Father, I pray for my friend Frank today. I thank you for him. God of the universe, I thank you for Frank Luntz, for his mind, for his intellect, for his interest in building relationships, his desire to see reconciliation. I pray that you continue to heal him, replumb him, rewire him. Lord, we need him. He's vital to our nation and he's vital to our word. So I pray that you would bless him today, that you touch him in a powerful way, that you show up and show yourself to be strong in his life. I thank you for him and all of us on this call today. Thank you for him. And I pray this in the name of the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. Okay.
Thank
Bye,
you.
everybody.
Thank you,
you.
Bob.